in this video, we're going to focus on our X scale here and give it some color and making these matching grid lines here. So we will make sure that these lines or the tick marks will eventually continue on down to wherever we want. We will control that all. So let's start to look how to create a custom X scale design in Chart.js 4. First thing what we need to do here is start working on this and make sure you get the boiler template, which you can find here on chartjs3.com getting started. So once you're on here, scroll down and copy this chunk of code. Next, if you want to support my Patreon page, check out my Patreon page here. And of course, we have a Discord channel, join as well. All the links of these are in the description box. So what we're going to do here is, first of all, let's change this into a horizontal bar chart. So I'm going to scroll down here and let's say in the options, we're going to say here index axis. Then we're going to say here Y, save. There we are. Next, what we want to do is we want to move these ticks or these tick labels more to the left. So to do that, I'm going to say comma here. Oh, sorry, not on the Y scale because this is the X scale. So we're going to say here X scale, and within the X scale here, make sure you have the comma down there, and then we're going to start work. What I want to do is, first of all, we want to make sure that the min value will be more than 0. That was an example I saw for the specific question, so we're going to say a min 2, for example. There we are. So now we have that. The next thing what I want to do here is start to work on aligning these. We want to push them more to the left. To do this, I'm going to say ticks, and then in the ticks, I will pinpoint alignment or align, and then say end, meaning it will now move it all to the left and ignore the right side. And as you can see here, if we would like to push it even more to the left, we will have to use some tricks. So let's start to work on that. So we say comma here, I'm going to say a callback. And once we make this callback here, I'm going to say here the value, the index and the values. This is a function arrow expression. And then what I want to do here is I want to return a value. So if I can say, for example, here return 100. And if I do this, it will always give 100. But I don't want that. I want to return the value that we have. There we are. But now how do we push it more to the left side? Well, I'm going to use backtick because we're going to use template literals. I make this a variable. So it's a $, curly braces. And then what we could say here, a percentage. That was in the example as well. This already moves, but not really. So how can we move it? By saying space, space, a single space or double space, how many space you want. And as you can see here, now we're moving nicely to the left. So now we're done here, except for this border line. I want to remove that because we're going to create our own design. So after the ticks, we can say here border, and the border here, we're going to say display will be equal to false. If I save this, pay attention to this line, you will see then it will be more lighter. If I refresh, there we are. You can see here now it's much lighter compared to previously, and the reason why is this grid line is one line and the border line is basically two, or together they're two lines on top of each other. So that's why you get the darker line. So now what I want to do here is start to work with the ticks. We're going to use some tricks around this. So it's a comma. I'm going to say here grid because the tick marks are part of the grid. So then normally you can say draw ticks and then say false. By default it is true. You'll see those tick marks will disappear. By doing that, we're losing this additional space that I do like to make it a bit more easier to read, or some breathing space. So what I want to do here, instead of this, we're going to say here, well, you could change the tick length by saying maybe 10. That's one of the options. Alright, but I will not use this. What I do want is the tick color, and I say instead of removing them, I'll just make them transparent, and then they are not visible to the eye. So basically a cosmetic trick. So now we have this done. What I want to do next is start working on making this box here. To do that, I'm going to work with a plugin, say comma, and then I'm going to say here, let's give this the plugin name scale design. Once I did that, then I'm going to say here, this will be the skill design plugin block, and then I'm going to say constant equals that, ID equals this, of course the same thing. And then when would we like to draw this? I want to draw this before the dataset. So before datasets draw this. And what are we going to draw? We're going to draw here the chart object, the arguments, and the plugins. Although we only will use the chart object, because we're going to use here an object destructuring of our chart object. If you don't understand what I'm saying here, check out the video in the description box. So once we did this, I'm going to say here CTX, the chart area, because we will be needing the coordinates, probably, let's say, I'm not sure, top, definitely bottom. Reading the bottom, we might need the left, so let's put in the right, width and height. I'll just put in all kind of options here. We can just put them all, and then later on we can fine tune them or remove what we don't need. So once we have this here, we can start to begin our drawing. So we can say here CTX save to save all variables above. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to say CTX.begin path, because I want to make sure the shape will be independent of anything else. Then what I want to do here is I want to get the color. I'm going to say CTX.fill style, and the fill style will be it's a string value RGBA, and I'm just going to use the official Chart.js grid line color 0, 0, 0, then 0.1. So once we did this, then we can start to draw our item here. And what I want to do here, because this is a rectangle that we want to draw, that will draw this block around this here. So to do this, I'm going to say here CTX.fill rectangle, which gives us the option to create a rectangle similar to this here with a background color instantly. What we need here is the X, the Y, the width, and the height. So we know a few things. We know we want to start at the very left here. This here on the X scale, basically the horizontal line, this is 0, and this would be whatever the last value is of the canvas. So this is 0, so we can start with 0. And maybe what would be nice here is to give you already a visual. Let's say here and that. Save, refresh. And as you can see here, I'm not sure if you're able to see this. Let's make this solid black. Alright. Now it's just starting here. How do we get it down to this area here? Well, what we can use here is a nice option that I realized that we need to add up here. Let's say here skills, and then I want to get the X and Y, although I only need the X value. So then I can say here X, and I'm going to use a built-in functionality. I'm going to say here, oh sorry, not even there. I want to go first to the bottom. The bottom, that's this in the chart area, is this line here. So let's save this, and when I refresh, check where this square will move. There we are. So now I want to go to the right side, or I want to have the width of the right side. So what is then here the width? You might say we just need the width here, but that is incorrect, because the width would calculate from this point all the way to there. So you will see that we have a missing part, but let's give you the visual. Save, refresh, there we are. So what I want to grab is the right side, which is the very end here. So put this on right, there we are. And then what I want to do is I want to move it down maybe 20 pixels. I just say 20, save, refresh. Alright, maybe we want to have it bigger, or, well, let's do another one. Let's put this first here, 0.1, save. Like that. Or we push it a little bit more down so it will just cover that area. I'm not sure if you want that, but if ever you would like to do that, we can say your bottom plus 10. And what will happen, it will move it a little bit down. In my case, I don't want to do that. So I'll just say here, this, and make this 30, or how big you want it. It doesn't really matter. And the reason why it doesn't matter is because once you're outside of the chart area, it will not be drawn because it is not visible at all. If you want to balance out this item here, we can scroll down here and change the tick length and maybe say 6 pixels instead of the default 8. And then of course, make sure you have a comma. Save, refresh, There we are, or maybe let's say 3 pixels. There we are. I think that looks quite acceptable. Alright, so now we have this here. What I do want as well is to make these lines here. You see here we have these tick lines, and all these tick lines should match here as well. So how do we do this? So let me show you. So we're going into the plugin as well again, because we're not done here. Then I'm going to say here, well, we need a few things here. First of all, we need to make sure we get the tick values, because I need to know the coordinates for this. Luckily, we can easily get this information if we're going into the X, which is the scale, the X scale to be exact. So as you can see here, we get a lot of information, and let's open one of these. And as we go in here, we scroll down to the ticks. You can see here, we get the value. We don't get the X coordinate of this, and maybe we do. I don't see it here. But the value in itself is more than enough, because I'm going to use a built-in trick as well. So what we're going to do here, this is an array, so I want to use the array and make a for each loop, because for every line here, or for every grid line, we should have this line connected to the bottom. So we're going to say here, x.ticks.for-each. And then for every tick, we also have the index, say index, and then we're going to say here function arrow expression. There we are. So then what we're going to do is we're going to create again a new shape, or basically a line that's disconnected from anything else. We want to avoid the bleeding over to any other shape, color, design that we have in our chart area. Then what I want to do is I want to give it a line thickness, so it's a line width will be equal to 1 pixel. Well, let's make this 4 pixels for now, so you have a strong visual, and later on we'll fix that. Then I'm going to say here ctx.stroke style, give it a proper color. So what we're going to do now here, the stroke style, give it a color. I guess in this case I'll just make it black, and later on we can just get the official color here. Then what I want to do here is, well, let's see, we need to create the line, so we're going to say ctx.move to, and then this will be the x and y coordinates. So now it's the question, this is our starting point. Our move to should be here, 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 or basically the starting point will be here of each in the loop. So how do we get this? What we know is, at least for the y value, that this area is called the bottom of the chart area. So since we have this already, we can already fill up the y. The x, we're going to use a special function. So I'm going to say x.getPixel for the value. And what is the value here? Well, our value is for the ticks. Let me say a dot value. And what we're really doing is, in the ticks, we get the value here. We see number 2. Say number 2 is the pixel coordinate. Once we did that, all we need to do now is going down. So we want to go down vertically. So that will mean here, we say ctx.line to. And then we're going to say, if it's vertically, we know x is already the same, but the y will be the difference, and the y is maybe bottom plus, I would take plus 30, because we have here 30 as well. So once we did this, I'm going to say ctx.stroke to draw the line, save, refresh. There we are. So now let's fine tune this and make this nice and thin. Alright, maybe even it could be even tighter, but we'll see on that. Let's put this in here. Save. There we are. And I'm not sure if you're seeing any difference, but I think it looks very, very identical. But it might be slightly darker because we have multiple colors on top of a layer that creates the darkness. But this is basically the way we can customize it, creating these items here and adding a custom grid line. Beautiful.